Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast.
Good evening, Jim.
Well, good evening, David.
The humor is I accidentally hit start streaming instead of start recording, so this probably went right to Twitch.
Yep.
A whole lot of no one watched it. that's what happens on Twitch. What happens on Twitch stays on Twitch because no one else knows about it.
Right. It's like Vegas. Vegas, baby.
Yeah, except a little bit more exclusive. So some stuff has happened, some things that I didn't anticipate happening. A couple weeks ago, I had announced that I was probably going to sell my Kiesel. I think it was like episode 210 or something. We are in episode 218, I believe. So, why this matters is I kind of went back and forth on it. I almost bought another Kiesel. I was this close to ordering one. And then Mike Jones was let go from Kiesel. And if you didn't hear the story, you can go Google it and find out the specifics of it. But basically, I can't do it anymore. As much as Jeff is not the figurehead of that company, the problem is that people identify you with Jeff. And especially people my age, because there's so much bro culture surrounding Jeff Kiesel. And that is to say that, like, it's the sycophantic thing. Like, oh yeah, I want to race cars with Jeff Kiesel, and I want to do this and that and the other thing. And it's like, I just can't do it anymore. And then after what happened between him and Mike Jones, basically Mike quit. He was going home to take care of his kid. His wife has got a new career position, and it's working out. And so on his way out, he made a not so great move and did something that was kind of like pointing the finger at Jeff and saying, "Ha, I got you." And it was a political commentary, and I just kind of felt like they handled it in totally the wrong way. And, like, it's one thing if you didn't agree, but there was a more gracious way to handle it, and they didn't even give a thought about it. So it was like, yet again, here's another situation where, and this isn't a customer, this is somebody who used to work for you. Mr. I want to take care of my employees, and that's why we raise prices so we can pay my employees a living wage. You basically shit on somebody because they were departing. So, anyway, long story short, if you want the whole details and the whole story, that we're not going to cover that here, but you can go look it up. It's obviously something that would be very divisive in the guitar community. I have had my issues with him over the years, and he finally did something that, in my opinion, jumped the shark. And it was like, all right, I can't even justify this anymore. It's not like Mike Fulltone, who has a history of being this person, and then it's this person yet again, and everybody's like, no, I'm not buying his pedals anymore. You know what I mean? This was very much like an escalation.
I understand that.
So anyway,
there are some people who can separate themselves from the product, and there are people who can't. And I understand that because we're in a culture that doesn't do that. And,
I mean, I know my guitar doesn't have his political beliefs or his behaviors. I know that.
Right.
But
it's a piece of wood with metal in it and stuff.
But the problem is other people see me playing that and think that I have those same things going on, and that's just not worth dabbling into.
It goes right down to that rabbit hole. We could spend a day on it, and I won't. If I buy a guitar at Guitar Center, am I supporting Guitar Center, or am I supporting the person that was behind the counter at Guitar Center? And we could go back and forth at that all day, and it doesn't matter. The fact is, whatever your beliefs are as an individual is your beliefs, and you should hold on to those beliefs. And I'm a person that if you have beliefs, then you should stand by them, and you should not let them go just because what's on the other side is bright, shiny, and pretty.
Yeah, well, so we've had this conversation on the show about products, and I don't want to make the What's New segment all about this, but because this actually relates to something else that's happened.
That's right.
But we've had this discussion on the show before, and I remember playing sort of devil's advocate at the time and being like, okay, look, and I want to sort of explain those comments. I said, do what you can live with, but
Right.
also understand that the product isn't necessarily a reflection of the person behind it.
That's
but
right.
there are definitely situations where you have to consider how other people perceive that situation rather than yourself.
That's
And I
right.
think
And
that's
will
sort of what I
perceive
was
you
getting
as a
lost in.
result.
Because
That's
even
right.
if
And perceive you as a result.
even if the employees, and this is the problem I really had, was that Mike Jones was basically calling him out as part of his departure, and Mike Jones was my rep. Okay, so I've actually
Right.
talked to this guy on the phone multiple times,
Right. Right.
and so like when I see him calling out his former employer, I didn't see him calling because it wasn't like he was mad that he was getting let go. He was basically just saying like, there's a really messed up culture here, and somebody needs to say something about it. And that's what I'm like, okay. There was some other mudslinging there, but I think that was more or less based on the fact that Jeff sort of called him out publicly, and then So anyway, you can go read all that. But what this led to is like me having kind of a crisis because I had put away a little bit of money to get a Kiesel. Like that was the goal. Like I was going to buy one, and I had the money for the down payment, and I decided I wasn't going to do it. So then GearFest rolls around because GearFest was Friday, Saturday. And so about Monday last week, I started looking at stuff and I had like all these pedals. I had a long list of like 20 things that I was going to investigate and see what the pricing was going to be like during GearFest. And I didn't buy any of it because number one, I was having conversations with gear counselors. In other words, my friend community. And some of them were like, no, you should do this, but like, just be careful that you're not getting overinvested and all these different things. And, and it kind of scared me off because I was like, I don't really want to buy a bunch of pedals and just have them laying around, but I do have an end goal for that. I want to get some stuff that's like super basic. Like you see, I got a DS1 back there sitting on a bin.
Yep.
I would like to have the full suite of like the Boss drive. So the
Boss, the Blues driver,
the SD1,
TS1, the SD1,
and all that stuff. And that will probably happen at some point, and maybe even this year. I'm going to try to get the Waza ones, but I'm going to do it on the down low.
I might get a Waza. I don't know if it's still available. There's a Waza Blues driver available.
Yep, and it's great.
And I'm like, and those are really good pedals.
Yeah, the Waza Blues driver, the Waza Super Overdrive. I don't want the Metal Zone. I mean, if I get a Waza Metal Zone, if it falls in my lap, that may happen. But I'm not really like that can happen over a couple of years. That doesn't have to happen right away. And the other thing is, I was talking about getting a switching pedal board early next year, and I think I'm actually going to hold off because something happened this weekend that I was like, I really need to focus and get my head in the game in terms of where my money's going. So I walked into Good Time Music with the intention of looking at some pedals. And I wasn't planning to buy anything. I was just kind of stopping to see what was up. So I walk in the door, and there's boxes everywhere because they're getting all this inventory in right now. Lots of Ibanez stuff and lots of amplifiers. In fact, they got one of the JCM 800 studio heads, which I was just told by Jeff is friggin' outstanding. And so if you're looking for new stuff, you might want to check out their Reverb page because they're listing a lot of stuff up there every day right now. That's just coming in the door, and a lot of it's fantastic. So anyway, I guess over the last, I think they'd had this guitar in stock 2 days. They were unboxing these while I was there. There was a PRS, a box of 3 PRSs, S2s, 35th anniversary custom 24s. And I want to pull up I'm going to pull up the page on Sweetwater just so I can get the colors right. Because I don't want to mess this up. PRS, guitars, S2, custom 24. Actually, we might even pull it up on Sweetwater. Now, as usual, Sweetwater comes up first. And then, actually, it's 30th anniversary. Because for some reason, they seem to outdo the manufacturers in terms of results. 35th. Okay. All right. No, they only have the one color listed. All right, we're going to prsguitars.com. I'm not screwing around. We ain't got time for this. I'll have to probably cut some of this out. So they did 35ths in S2. and they did them in. Wow, I don't even see them listed here. They did them in the Core series,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably why I can't find their page right now. I wish I had the color codes at least. It would be nice to be able to tell you. I have the hang tag. I can tell you what color this one is. I just don't know what else they came in. And I was going to talk about the other two. So I have the tags. He's got the tags.
You're lucky.
You know?
He's got the tags.
So obviously I bought one. And
yeah. Let's see that, baby.
Big shock and disbelief. So I actually wasn't going to show it on the show, but I will.
You got to. You've got to. It's a law.
So this is the
look at this thing.
The
my
top on this guitar,
God.
And it is.
Look at that
I mean, you
top
can see
move. That's how you know it's not.
And it's moving on camera, you know, and it's like it's the most beautiful guitar I've owned for sure.
Oh yeah,
it's gorgeous, but it wasn't the looks. So I saw the guitar and I was like, I am going to play this.
Yeah, that would get me to play it. Let me just say that.
There were two others. They had a blue one. It was whale blue, and then they had it's not that color. That's Tiger's Eye, or not Tiger's Eye. What do they call that? That's their Amber Burst or whatever.
Right.
And they had another one that wasn't nearly as figured. That's Dark Cherry Sunburst, I think.
Yep.
And then they have the Tobacco Sunburst or something like that. So that was the other one, or it was Dark Cherry. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what it was. Anyway, of the two colors, of the tops, this was obviously the premium. This looks like a $4,000 guitar. I mean, it is legit. Like, if it wasn't a bevel, this would be a Core model. Like, they would have taken this top and they would have done a violin card to it. So I played. They have a CE there too, which I played on multiple occasions. I actually like that guitar quite a bit. So I sort of hem-hoed around. I was like, do I get this or the CE? And I actually preferred the bevel to the violin carve. And there's a reason for it. So I think people who play Les Pauls would probably prefer the violin carve to the bevel because it does not mimic body contours on a Strat. It is like a chamfer, and so your arm rests in two places with a space. Whereas in this, it's a firm, flat feeling against your arm. So if you're more comfortable with that kind of guitar, an S2 might work better for you. Now, here's the funny part. So I see this guitar, I play it. There's another gentleman in the store playing them too, and I was not prepared to buy this guitar. I was like, this was not supposed to happen today. This was supposed to happen over 6 months of me playing a bunch of different stuff. And I played this one, and all of the misgivings I've been telling myself for like 2 years that I was really worried about. Like, I needed to have stainless steel frets. I needed to have a 12-inch radius. It had to be 25.5-inch scale. It had to have the better heel and all these different things. It just bared. I wasn't even worried about the fact that it was a mahogany versus maple neck. I mean, I had the custom or the CE sitting right next to it, and I'm kind of like, yeah, it'll be more stable. But I played it, and I was like, I don't have the same problems I had in my SG. And
right.
So it ended up coming home with me. Now, a couple gripes I have. No hard shell case. This guitar retails for $16.49, and there's no hard shell case. Which is just... it's a 35...
It blows my mind.
If it was just a run-of-the-mill standard, that's one thing.
Right.
This is a custom...
But it's a 35th anniversary thing. Yeah,
24.
That should... it's a custom 24, and it is a 35th anniversary.
And it ships in basically an SE gig bag.
Yep. Basically, it is. As a matter of fact, the only difference between that and the SE gig bag is the color, and it doesn't say SE on it.
Yeah.
The SE gig bags are brown. I don't know. I've had so many of them. I still have one. And the I think the one you have is like a black gray, dark gray, like a charcoal gray.
It's black.
Yeah, black. Okay.
I
knew it was a dark color.
Yeah, it's black. They did do them in gray, I think, for a while, but they're black now. And so
where the SEs jump right out at you.
I gotta find a hard shell case for it. I'm not hauling this thing around in a gig bag. That's just not gonna happen. But it sounds great. That was the thing that blew me away. Was I plugged it in. It played great out of the box. Like, basically nothing had been done to this guitar, and it Or maybe they tweaked the action or something before they put it on the wall, because it was hanging up when I came in. And they took pictures of it twice, because the flame was very, very deceptive. And I'll flash the pictures up here now, which this is 15 minutes in. I'll put that in the notes. And in those pictures, you're going to see how bad that flame looks. And it's because when the guitar is angled backwards, can't see it.
Yep. And,
So,
that's the thing about a lot of the Sweetwater guitars. Even though they're showing you pictures of the
yeah, you have
actual
no idea
guitar,
what they actually look like, because as you tilt it
sometimes-
forward and backwards,
Yep.
and
And
that was a
I
lesson to me.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, it's hanging in my wall here, and it's like, I look over it, I'm playing video games on Twitch, and I look over and I go, oh, god damn. Like, how did I get that? Like, how did that
I know.
happen?
I know, right? Sometimes you just, and how did they pick that for that guitar?
I have no idea.
I get it. 35th anniversary.
Well,
but
I
still,
was
that's
thinking,
just
and in fact, I even asked Pat, I said, Pat, is that a veneer? That's got to be a veneer, right? He goes, no, they don't put veneers on the S2s. That's a full top.
Yep, that's an actual top. It's not as thick. It's slightly thinner than the core.
Yeah, because
because
it's a beveled
core
top.
is more of a beveled top.
Well,
but,
and that's sort of misleading too, because of the way that they cut it. But
I know, but they have a bevel on that. There is a bevel there. I know because you own it, but it's not as deep as a core bevel. And when I say not as deep, and that's the thing that always gets into it. I see pictures of my guitar in my hand all the time. My Les Paul. That thing is beveled to F, right? That thing is beveled. Those Les Pauls, all three of them, and my supposedly not figured top 335 has the most beautiful figuring I've ever seen in a 335 up close. It's so weird. Sometimes, no, it's not figured. Well, anyway, what I'm about to say is a lot of times I'll see pictures of it. And I'm like, wow, my guitar looks like it's flat. Like it's just plain to flat. And I know for a fact that it's got a lot of curve in it. That's what I love about the feel of my Gibsons, is that bevel. That's the SG still gets a lot of play. Matter of fact, that SG got a lot of play yesterday. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we're gonna have a gig report. They're definitely gonna have a gig report.
She got the crap beat out of her. She's getting a full string change cleaning tonight. She's going through it. She's got a bath.
So here's the strange thing about all this. So I know the Kiesel's going, so that's going to be sold. It's either going to somebody who's a show listener, or it's going on Reverb. And at this point, I'm leaning towards Reverb. I didn't put it up today because it hasn't hit my credit card yet. But as soon as that happens, I'm going to be like, oh, we got to get this thing out of here. And I don't... So, like, this guitar is different enough than what I already have that it's not like... I don't feel like it's infringing on anything. I'm definitely going to be playing a Strat for certain stuff, and I'm definitely going to be picking this guy up for other things. I don't see one being better than the other. They're both. I actually lucked out because I was sort of afraid that if I bought a Strat that was similar to this one, the one I already have, the S500, that I was just going to stop playing the S500. This is not going to allow that to happen. Even just playing through my pedals, like things react differently. The fuzz actually sounds really interesting with this guitar, which is wild. And I think it has something. I believe this has a treble bleed built into it.
I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to do a video. I actually want to I have to get a video done for Jason Fuzzmonger. I had a funeral I had to go to this week, and that kind of threw off my plans. I was going to film it this weekend. He lent me his creepy face like years and years ago, and I want
like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It was a while ago, and I want everybody to know, like, you should shower him with praise because he's been a long-time supporter of the show, and he has never asked for me to send that back to him. He knows I have it. I know I have it. I know it belongs to him. It's not thievery. I haven't been running around using this as gigging thing or whatever. He lent it to me for the show. I definitely want to do a shootout because I told him what I wanted to do was put it next to my NKT Sunface. So in order for me to do that, I want to get a pair of carbon zinc batteries so it's fair to both of them. And they're going to be identical. I actually have a source to get those. We'll just plug them in and we'll run, guitar through one, guitar through the other, and maybe we'll take the looper out and I'll just run the same loop through both of them into my interface, and we'll play that kind of game just to see how different they actually are.
Right.
And they are very similar. For reference. But anyway, so as part of all this conversation, last week, we talked, I think it was last week or the week before, we talked about the guy that had all the guitars stolen. And we talked about insurance. And I mentioned I'm actively pursuing insurance. I have been for a while. I got insurance last week through Clarion. Okay, so Clarion is, they pride themselves on violins and cellos and that kind of thing. But you can get regular old insurance for them. I thought it was going to be this process where, like, I call them up, I get a quote, they say, okay, you know, now you got to go get your stuff appraised, and then give us serial numbers. None of that happened. None of that happened. I literally called them up. They sent me an email form where I could basically load all my stuff into it. I loaded all of my guitars, not even with serial numbers, just with an identifier that's like, this is my Kiesel with, you know, this, this, and this. And they said, fantastic. And then they sent me back a quote sheet. I'm paying roughly between $20 and $22 a month for $12,000 worth of gear spread across 2 different locations. And it's going to work out well, right? And this, so like I realized after I did it, I was like, oh shit, I didn't list any of my pedals. So I added them on. Didn't really change my bill, and changed. So like now I know, like, oh, I got a new guitar. I know that this is going to be an easy process to go through. Literally drop the Kiesel off the insurance as soon as it's sold and in the hands of the next buyer, and then add the PRS on. So that it'll all be taken care of and I don't have to worry about it. And the difference in value will be negligible. It might cost me an extra 50 cents a month to do that kind of thing.
If at all. They probably have hundreds of dollars of increments. That's typical of those types of things. There's like $100 or $200 of difference, and then you have a tier that you jump into. So you might not have even broken into the next tier.
And the policy documents are great. I mean, I'm covered. The coverage, the stuff that they talk about you being covered for is just hilarious. Active terrorism. Active terrorism insurance on my gear, which is like way over the top, because all I want is coverage in my car when I drive to and from open mics and stuff like that. I want coverage at the gig, so if somebody knocks my shit off the stand or walks off with it, and I want
coverage at home.
Coverage at home. The coverage at home is
or
like
wherever it is
tertiary, because, like you said, and we talked about the show, you can get homeowners coverage,
which I have.
Right, which is what you should do. Just, you know, as long as you, and a lot of people think, well, homeowners coverage will cover you when you're in your car. So it doesn't.
No, it
doesn't.
No, it does not.
They won't even cover you the gig most times. It just depends.
There's a lot of times homeowners coverage ends at the demarc is, what is that thing called? The space between where county owns some of your land and you own some of your land, that demarc. I can't remember what it's called now for life of me for some reason, but it's not leeway.
Well, it depends. If you some of the insurances, if you get a rider, will cover you even if you take it to an open mic or something. The second the money changes hands for you being there, they won't cover you.
Right.
So you have to kind of play the game if you have to cover it, and if they can find out for any reason, then you can be guilty of insurance fraud, which is you know,
you don't want to do that.
You can go to prison for that. So.
Yep, not worth it.
That's a whole other.
But the number of musicians I know and I've known over the years who have had their stuff stolen, and really nice stuff, I thought it wasn't worth $20 a month to you. You're gigging all the time, and it wasn't worth $20 so that you could go to the bathroom with a little peace of mind. I mean, you know, I'm still the guy who I'll tell you. I've told you a story about one time I was at a gig and this guy just kept eyeing my bass, and he was like, "Can I play it?" I'm like, "No, don't even touch it. Don't even look at it.
Yeah, it's not yours."
and the guy was like, "Well, I have one. I had one of those. I could play it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't, and this isn't yours, and I didn't play yours, and you're not playing mine." Like, I don't know what's wrong with you, or where you think I gotta share my toys?
Gigs where it's like, "Here, let me play your Gibson SG." I remember that, and I looked at the guy and I said, "You're not playing my SG." And like no offense, but I don't know you, and that guitar is like $1,800. So if you think I'm putting that in a stranger's hands, you're out of your mind.
Open mic a few weeks ago, 2 guys were there, and they signed up, And they were like, yeah, you guys got a guitar we can borrow? No. No,
And if you
everybody up on this stage is playing one of these. Every one of these is worth more than $2 bills. No, you're not touching one of them.
it's an open mic, so the host guitar. I actually think if you're gonna do it, like if you're gonna be a open mic host, bring a host guitar. Bring the cheapest piece of shit you can get your hands on, so nobody wants to use it.
So our open mic host was doing that. He was bringing a host acoustic, and guess what happened?
Somebody swiped it.
Somebody got mad at somebody else and threw it.
Just like that gig report I think I gave on the show last week, where the dude threw his bass across the stage.
Yeah,
At an open mic with the club's drum kit on stage.
Crazy. So, I want to talk for just a second about this logo. Notice how the O is not closed. It is open. It kind of looks like an A, like Gibson.
You mean
right?
the...
Yeah. Son. Gibson. Yeah. Hold on. There's a reason I'm pointing this out. So I had a friend of mine who saw something of mine and said, why does it say Gibson instead of Gibson? And I said, that's not a U, that's an O. He said, well, it looks like a O, or it looks like a U or an A. And there's a reason, but it wasn't this shirt. It was this.
Is that to go with the birds?
So I finally got it done, yeah. I haven't done the Fender one yet, but yeah, I got that one done. But I'm thinking I might do Marshall instead of Fender, because I don't know. I'm not a Fender lover.
Can I make a joke? If you're gonna get Fender, maybe you should get it put on your ass.
I put it on my ass. Yep, right above. I'm gonna get a tramp stamp that says Fender. Is that a politically correct statement?
Majority of reasons to put the Fender logo on your ass. Number one, where are your fenders? Right. Number two, where should Fender go? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've
Fender?
said this so many times. Every week, I'm like, am I keeping it? Am I not keeping it? I'm like, and I just don't. The problem is, these guitars get played. My guitars get played. Okay, my bass gets played. My guitars get played. They get their strings changed regularly, and I play my Fender, and it's the one that gets like one song, and I'm like, okay, I can't do it anymore, and I can't take it to a gig, because when I do, I'm playing any one of these, and it's like now I got to have something set up completely different. We talked about that, so it's just one of those things where
I'll bet you, if we run your Fender Strat through a lot of compression, that'll change that.
Yeah, it would. It would if I compressed it, but. Do I, I don't know. The famous sounds of Strats are compressed.
Yep.
I don't care if you're a country
and
lover.
It's not a compressor. It's the amp.
No, it's the amp. That's exactly right. They're compressed. It's a supercharged, punched amplifier. I don't care if you're talking about your favorite country players like Brad Paisley.
Is like the ultimate amp, because you could push that thing to the point where it's compressed.
That's right, and it doesn't break up. That's why they love them.
Oh, no, they break up, but they break up in a very musical way at the volume you want to use them.
Right. That's what I meant to say. The breakup isn't not a Marshall breakup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that's unusable either. It's just done in a very musical
but different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I want to make this clear to everybody. So if you're listening, we're breaking the show up into segments now. Segments are being released over the week, and then the full episode comes out with bonus content on usually Thursday, but it just depends on where things fall. The schedule has been kind of screwy because I've had a lot of personal stuff going on, but we're getting them out. So hey, for the first time, we've been pretty consistent in a couple weeks. So I can honestly say this is working pretty well. And it's not much more editing time for me to do that, so it works out. But I just want to make that clear. If you're listening to the show and you're wondering why you've already heard this segment 3 times, or you've heard parts of the show 3 times, it's because they're all segmented. So you can continue to listen to the show in the complete episode format with bonus content, or you can listen to the individual segments. But that's part of the reason why we're actually making some breakup delineations and what's going on with the show. It's easier for you to digest small chunks than it is to digest the whole thing. Usually with YouTube, most people are not dialing in for an hour. They're dialing for 15 minutes. So that's kind of what we're trying to keep things at. So that's the what's new. That actually lasted a lot longer than I anticipated, 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which actually, what do we talk about? Now I have an order and it makes sense. Let's talk about things coming out of the box, Jim. Let's talk about things that come out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me your example of someone pulling something out of a box and saying something that was utterly insane.
I see this all the time, especially like, okay, you'll get these guys that are like a Firefly guitar, and it's out of the box, and they open it. It's perfect out of the box. Perfect out of the box.
Really?
Setup is perfect out of the box. And I'm like, come on, this is where I'm like, I don't expect that of any guitar.
Really?
No guitar. Yeah. And so, yeah, I know. You're looking at that one. Don't tell me that nobody ever looked at that and tweaked it.
Mine's not perfect. No, it's not.
No.
It came out and it had wax on it. So,
I believe that. I had to take wax off that 335.
And anything with a nitro finish these days, they're electrically charged, so you're going to have dust.
Yep.
That's...
Yep. And you'll have those dust particles which are coming off of the styrofoam that's in there, the light styrofoam they put in there.
Whatever
which is
packing
good.
material they're using, right?
Yeah, which is good, but it's still dust and it's still staticky, and still you got to wipe it down. But the other side of it is that there's no way the strings are perfect because they don't know you. And if you're so easy to please that any guitar out of a box is perfect, you don't know your playing style well enough or your feel well enough that you want to actually have. And I know this is flying right in the face of things. Boy, somebody's gonna hate me for
this.
Yeah, here it comes. But seriously, there's no way they know your specific thing. It might be perfect at the open. It might be perfect at the 12th fret. It might be perfect, but it's not going to be perfect up and down the frets. And I'm not saying that it's bad. For some reason, today's culture, if you don't like something, you hate it, right? I'm just saying that it's not perfect. And I get really annoyed when I see this perfect out of the box. And then they'll 20 seconds later, for the price, this, for the price, that, for the price, something else.
But what the hell?
Then
what the hell do you actually mean?
Then the perfection isn't there.
Like, what the hell do you actually mean when you say that? So
right, what does it mean? You're right. Go ahead.
So here's my issue. So the only guitar. All right. I agree and I disagree with certain points. So the whole idea of adjusting a guitar to your spec is like, I see that as different from playing a guitar out of a box and saying it's perfect. In my mind, I think pulling pulling a guitar out of a box and it having no finish problems, the frets are perfectly level, the neck is perfectly intonated, as well as obviously adjusted properly, right? But intonation is perfect on the guitar, and I really only feel like that can be achieved with an Evertune, number one, because like think about it. So like you hear this shit get said about things like Harley Bentons, right? I pulled my Harley Benton out of the box and it was perfect. Shut up. Okay, like first off, no. Because there's no way in hell that thing arrived from Germany to the United States in tune.
Right.
It just didn't happen. And on top of that, I'm not really sure I trust you to make an adjudication about intonation. When you've seen people who've used strobe tuners, and then they're like, oh, the guitar's intonated, and then they hand it to somebody else, and he goes, no, it's not. And then he sits here and tweaks it, and then you can hear the difference in the harmonics, and you go, holy shit. Like, how did that guy do that? And they can do it by ear. and it actually be more accurate than a strobe tuner, or at least sweetened than a strobe tuner, then you realize, oh shit, like everything gets called into judgment, right? Because then you're like, okay, so this guitar gets shipped to me, and I take it out and I strum the chords. I'm the first to admit this came out of the box. Intonation was bad. Okay, it needs to be intonated. I can tell almost immediately. Doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying playing it unintonated. No, absolutely not.
Right.
But that being said, like, that's something that I think a lot of players don't really have the ear for. They think they do better than they actually do. And case in point, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to an open mic and I hear somebody hit an open G and I go, what the fuck? Like, how do you think you're going to get through this with that? But they're, they pull out their clip-on tuner and they tune a little plink, 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 plink. And then all of a sudden it's like they hit the open G again and it's a little bit better, but it's still like, dude, you could take like 2 or 3 more minutes and get that thing actually in tune. And I see it a lot, especially with modern Fender players who are using floating bridges. They don't understand that you're supposed to tune them up like 4 or 5 times before they're close enough, really. And they're impossible to get. So this has got a floating bridge too, but they're impossible to get perfect. You're just never going to do it, but you can get pretty damn close. And the Kiesel's the same way. So like floating bridge and that whole shenanigans, and then having 7 strings made it worse. But that particular guitar, like, it came out as close as I've ever had a guitar come out of a bag from the box. I got the box directly from Kiesel. It came as close as I have ever seen to being perfectly intonated and in tune. And I will say this, preference-wise, the action was a little low for my preference. So I did a little relief check, and I adjusted it, like, within minutes of taking it out of the box. But that being said, like, it was pretty damn close. And I didn't have to intonate it, even after making the action adjustment. It was not perfect, but again, that's the point of this conversation, right? You can't pull a guitar off of a truck that has gone hundreds of miles, pull it out of the box, pull it out of the bag if it comes in one, and go, holy crap, this thing is perfect. It's playing in tune. The electronics are adjusted perfectly. And they're all the same, consistent. Like every one of these that comes out. Because that's the other thing. Like when these reviewers get one, they get one as hand-picked. Okay?
Most of the time.
Especially unless they're purchasing it themselves. And even then, they might still be getting a hand-picked one.
That's right.
So they get a guitar that's going to have a little bit of extra attention sometimes. And that's one of these situations. Oh, it's perfect out of the box. The one I remember, somebody saying recently, and I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was the guy we talked about. But he pulled an SG out of the box and he goes, oh, it's perfect. And then like 15 minutes later, he's talking about tooling marks in the fretboard. It wasn't Brown or whatever his name was.
No, it's the guy from Ohio, right?
Yeah.
Baker?
It wasn't him. So I'm not going to, it wasn't Baker. No, it was somebody that was like, they're probably C-tier YouTube. But they were like, this guitar is perfect. But then they're like, oh, it has tooling marks in the neck. No, that's not perfect. Like, what the hell did you say that for? Because when you see these guys pulling boxes and pulling guitars out of boxes, it's immediate honeymoon. And for them, it's Christmas, right? So, like, I'm not going to pick on Ryan Burke, but I'm going to use him as an example because I know his name. Ryan Burke gets a guitar from whoever, right? Let's say PRS sends him one again. And he pulls it out and he goes, oh my gosh, like they sent me a $3,500 core model PRS. And this is an amazing guitar. And this is an amazing experience because my professional career has gotten me to a point where they're sending me $3,500 core models. And that whole clouded judgment becomes a thing. And I know people are like, oh, well, they're jaded now, though, because they've seen so many guitars. They are to a point. Because, like all of us, they have the same euphoria that they do when they get something new from somebody. And
Yeah, of
so
course.
even their judgment's clouded. I actually think if somebody were to do gear reviews and say, like, we're going to talk about the gear that was sent to me 6 months down the road after I've gigged it and rode it hard and put it away wet, and then we're going to talk about what I really think about it. Like,
That's right.
that's, to me, is the real test of equipment, is the stuff that sticks around in your collection, especially in the things that I have. Will this PRS stick around? I don't know. Like, honestly, I hope it does. It feels like a keeper, but it's one of those things where who knows what I'm doing in a year, you know? And
you'll get every penny out of that if you ever did decide to get rid of it.
I mean, I'll get my rental out of it for sure. I'm not I'm not worried about
you'll
that.
Get every penny.
I didn't buy it worrying about that.
No, I know. I'm just saying that if you decided to get rid of it, that would be one of the ones that you could get every penny out of it.
Right.
If you were willing to sit on it for, a few weeks and let it wait, you'll get all of it. Because the 35th anniversaries are all gone. They were limited. They actually were limited.
You know what's really funny? It's funny you say that. The 35th anniversaries were limited. 35th anniversary was last year. Guess what?
That's right.
They're still making 35th anniversary S2s because they didn't make enough of them due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, they didn't make
so
their
they're
number.
Still producing them,
which is funny. Yeah. I would definitely have bought that guitar. That's one I would.
Stamped, I think 1/19/2021. So 35th anniversary made in this 36th year.
Now I can honestly say that the guitars that are hanging behind me, every single one of them, including the Strat, believe it or not, has been gigged, has been played, has been, and they've all been out there and they've all had their time and tested. And the truth of the matter is I don't hate the Strat. I don't hate the Strat. It's just that I feel like it doesn't fit with the things that go. It's like one of these things is not like the other. And the fact is that, I've been on stage a few times now with that 335. And, for some people, that's the kind of guitar they just wouldn't take to a gig. They just wouldn't. It's $3,000. It's a lot of money. And I don't blame people. I got a friend. He's selling his Gibson's 50 Standard. It's a gold top. It's a gold top version of my guitar right there. And I'm like, I was looking at it, I was like, oh, because I know I can get it for the exact same money I paid for that one, which is pretty good price. And because he's a friend. And I'm thinking, oh, that would be hard to.
But Jim, how many Les Pauls do you really need at any given time?
How many Les Pauls does somebody need? N+1.
You can live in that
the number you have
as long as you want. Like,
I'm just kidding. No, I have one too many already. I really do. I have one too many.
Many people, are in the toy collecting business, basically, where they just keep buying the same stuff over and over. Like, I can't tell me how many people I've run into that have like 11 Strats, and I go, "Oh, what models?" And they go, "They're all American standards," and you go, "Like what?"
Well, let's take, for instance, that guy that bought.
How many tunings do you use?
that lost all those guitars. Now, I know there are a lot of people that collect. I really do. I know that. But when you've got a collection that's so big, you have to put it in a storage facility, and then you never go to it for a long time.
Yeah.
It really. I mean, I see these people that are collectors that collect. Yeah. I see these people. Well, he didn't do that. That's the bad side of it. But I see these people who collect Funko Pops like I do. I keep them out. They're all on display. Not just these ones here. I've got ones you can't see. They're right here where my hand is. I've got ones I've got my living room is full of them. I mean, we're setting up display cases for them. And I'm like, maybe I've got too many, and yet I've got some on pre-order. That's how bad it is. But here's the thing that you were absolutely right. My son said, "Dad, if you buy that gold top, you're now moving from player to collector." And he goes, "Are you really going to play that one versus this one?" He goes, "You know that one."
Your son's a good person.
And he was right. He read it so well. I need that in my life. I need that logical.
You definitely do.
Yeah. And I don't.
You are a collector, Jim. Let's be real. Like, not talking about guitars, but you just collect things in general. So it's easy to make that leap. But to collect things that are that expensive on the kinds of money that we make is just...
Exactly. I have a Peterson strobe tuner that still has the plastic.
Yeah, I remember
see the little
you
tab?
have removed plastic on this show before.
And it's way past the return policy. There's absolutely no reason for that plastic except I'm an idiot. But I'm that guy. Let me grab this. So I'm so bad about this stuff. I mean, this is.
Yeah, still the box.
He's got the box. It's not only in the box. It's in a box in a box. There's an outer box.
Yes, I know.
It's plastic.
Yeah, showcasing.
That's how bad some of this stuff is. I've got some of them are showcased. I've got an Angus Young that's in a hard plastic box, then in a box with still the thing that says Walmart exclusive. What am I getting at? I'm getting at this because I want to bring it back to what we're talking about here. That is that at some point this is not perfect. It's the Peterson strobe tuner. It's not perfect.
No.
That guitar is not perfect. As a matter of fact, if I didn't,
if they were perfect, they'd be boring.
Look at how. Can you see how gooey that looks? So, we'll get to my gig from hell later. That'll be our bonus content.
5. That's our segment 5.
But in other words, what I'm saying is that if that was perfect to me, that Les Paul, that Gold Top, I had it, I lost it, I had it again. The last guy beat the out of it, and I had to reset it up. He set it up like he was playing slide or something. I had to bring it back to where I play it. These guitars are they're tools.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people remember that. I mean, you can see my guitar.
They're
here.
Adjustable for a reason. You don't want them to come out of the box perfect. You really don't, because you're going to customize the crap out of them anyway.
Because, I think what happens is if you have that honeymoon thing, and this is me, okay, I could be completely wrong, but I think there are personality types out there that if they get a guitar that they say is perfect, are you going to adjust it? Or are you just going to be lazy? And I say lazy not in a bad way. See, you got to take that connotation with you. Lazy is in, you know what? Or let's say indifferent. Let's call it indifferent. Indifferent enough to go, I'm fine with it that way. I'm fine with it that way. Well, then you're not fine with it. What if the accent's a little too high and you're bending I see it all the time. Tell me how many times you get on the internet and a person goes, I got this great guitar and I love it and it's perfect. But for some reason, when I'm playing it, all the notes are out of tune. I'm like, either you're pressing too hard or your accent's too high, or both. Bad. Or your intonation, the intonation. Oh, well, I had it set up, and this guy, maybe he set it up for his playing style.
Yeah, maybe you should have talked to him about what you actually wanted.
And you have to communicate that. But if you don't know what that is, and that goes back to my first statement, that you don't know what your playing style is. If you don't know what your playing style is, how do I tell a tech? I go to a tech and I say, hey, I need my guitar set up. Okay. And they set it up. How do I tell him then that it's wrong if I don't know what's wrong?
Right. And actually, that's the real point I was going to make in all this, is that many people, they don't know the difference. I mean, we've all done it. We've all picked up somebody else's guitar and gone, how the hell are you even playing this thing? I've done it more often than most, probably, because for whatever reason, I seem to get the lost puppies. People come to me and they're like, look at my guitar, and like, here, you want to buy this from me? I'm like, dude, like, I want to buy it from you and throw it in the trash. Like, it's awful.
We're going to put this where it belongs.
But I'm a nice guy, so I don't say that. I say, it needs some work. Anyway, I bought guitars and basically rescued them. Because there was a guitar I bought. The guy, he had this American Standard Strat, and the guy was putting the tremolo bar on the guitar in the case, in a hard shell case. So when I got this guitar, the bridge was like this. The body is here. The bridge was like this, and the tremolo bar was still attached to the guitar, and it looked like it had never been cleaned. And I took it to Good Time, and I was like, guys, I know this guitar is worth like $500. I'm like, take it and clean it. I absolutely know that if you clean it, do a fret job on it, and you fix the springs, like the claw, it'll be perfect. And it was actually a really good guitar. Kind of pissed at myself because I did all this upgrade work to it, and I sold it. And I was like, I probably should have kept that thing.
Yeah.
It's not a bad guitar, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for either. So anyway,
Yep. Last segment.
Sometimes the things coming out of the box are really screwed up, and they turn out to be like an ugly duckling. It's sort of you get a gut feel for it. Like Jim, like I was talking about, like I picked that Strat out of the box and I go, oh my god! But I looked at it and I went, everything's intact, and the frets don't look horrendous. I'm like, it'll be fixable. Like this is not a big deal. So I bought it from the guy and we got it fixed up. Yeah,
you could see the what it could be.
And then there are times you fail at that too, like you buy Shengzai. By the way,
well, you did that as a joke, but still.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Kind of.
I did it as a show thing, but anyway, the PRS I have hanging here next to me, I laugh because that's a veneer on that Shengzai, and it doesn't look half as good as this.
Of course.
And but it's the veneer versus this shouldn't be different. Okay, you can have all the 3D quality in a veneer. You can have gorgeous flame because it's way easier to get a gorgeous flame on one piece of wood that you chop into 1,000 pieces.
And right here.
But this still looks better. It looks way better.
Yeah.
And that's not like honeymoon or anything. It's just it is what it is. It's a PRS,
I could be wrong. You've had it open, but I still think it's probably a photo veneer.
It could be. Means that the thing is, it's 3D. Flame. You can tilt it in the light and you can see it shifting.
You see a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, which is like it's amazing.
Typically, that's got to have some depth.
Yeah, I mean, so they're probably just using. It's not a micron thin. It's probably more than paper. But it's still veneer. It's still chopped into. Take one piece of maple and chop it into 500 pieces.
My PRS is a veneer. That's an S2 or SE. I mean, but we talked about that. So, yeah, that's. I think we're good on that topic.
Let's talk about tonebenders.
Yes, we should talk about. There's a show listener who got one, and he got it. He was on the list. He got the original. Oh, who are you talking about?
Jason Fuzzmonger.
Chase Fuzzmonger got two. Guess who got one? We have two show listeners.
John Bach got one as well, right?
John Bach got one. Yep.
So he managed to luck out and get one.
He had ordered it right away. I didn't know it was coming, and I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have ordered it anyway.
I was trying to get on the list. Nobody would let me on the list.
Yeah, that said, now that I know, I would have bought 10 of them, and I'd have scalped them.
Everybody always says that. Everybody always says that. I didn't know, and then if I'd have bought it, I'd have bought 10 of them, and it's like, listen, I want to explain something to you about how this works. Those pedals are not worth $1,600 or whatever they're going for in Reverb.
They're not, but they're going for. I checked Reverb the other day. Let's see what it is today. Let's do a live Reverb.
Look for sold.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Okay. So if I looked for a Tonebender, okay, there it is. Right away, it pops up once you type tone.
Yeah,
there it is. Used from $899. Okay. And if we go down to sold listings, we've got them. Okay, they're dropping a bit. They're down to $829.
Yeah.
The first one sold at 12. Well, more than that. The first one sold at.
Don't worry about the shipping. Just what is it listed for?
Well, one went in April for almost $1,700.
Which is a pre-order.
Which was a pre-order. Some idiot bought a pedal they'd never tried for a pre-order from someone for $1,700. Mm-hmm. I'm calling you an idiot. I don't care who you are. You're a moron. Because you bought a pedal. You didn't even know what it was going to sound like months before it released.
I would argue
way more than it was going to be worth.
I would argue that person,
you and your money were quickly parted.
They are a collector, is what
They're
they
a
are.
collector.
And they
That's
know
absolutely.
that in order to be a boss completionist, they probably have every other stomp box. They have to have that one.
But that person could have waited. I mean, come on. You know darn well these prices are going to come back down to reasonability.
I suspect we're going to be seeing those pedals for $650.
I don't think they'll go I don't think they'll go much. I think they might go down to 500. But
they might.
I don't know.
I think they're going to be right at $650. I think that's where they hang. Because so here's my market justification. That's where the King of Tone sits, and that's a pedal that's basically unobtainium unless you have one on order. They made a lot of these. This is not a small. It's not like they made 250 of them. They made 3,000.
3,000. Yeah.
And to put it in perspective, Boss doesn't sell 3,000 of one pedal a year most of the time, especially not one that costs $350.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I would agree with that number.
Now,
actually, anything over 200, I would agree with.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get another incarnation of this pedal later. Maybe using a new transistor, not bearing the
germanium.
It'll be some other transistor, and it won't bear the Tonebender name, but it will be basically the same circuit with. And here's my logic. So, Boss did an experiment. They wanted to see how marketable them doing a vintage style effect was. And they got the Tonebender name, which helped, right? That automatically hyped this thing all to hell. Clearly, there's a market for it because people bought them.
That's right.
And so just keep this in mind, though. Anytime you buy a used Tonebender, mark whatever pedal, on Reverb, and it sells for the Boss Tonebender, sells for more than the original freaking Sola Sound or, whatever Tonebender from Mercari's, ask yourself a question. Do you want the Boss or do you want the Mercari? Because the reality is the Mercaris don't go for $1,600. They don't. So what the hell? Why was that a thing? And I can tell you what my thought, theory, perspective on this is. People are driving the prices up. Somebody out there has got 5 or 10 of the pre-orders. They bought them, at $600 or $700, and then they're trying to flip them for, $1,600, and they're sitting on a bunch of pre-orders and realizing, oh shit, I can't sell them for $1,600, so they're going to try to take top dollar. They're going to gradually lower prices until people start biting. And I have a feeling that there's a few people that are involved in this, because it's not like they all ended up on Reverb. Quite a few of these pedals actually ended up in people's hands. Like I said, I know somebody who got 2 of them. I do know that they paid dearly for one of them. And it sucks to hear that. Like, I'd hoped that Boss would do a bigger run of these, that they wouldn't be 3,000, because I think that's what they said. It was going to be a run of 3,000. And it might have been 3,000 and change or something, but I would be really, really shocked if we don't see Boss's take on this again with like a silicon transistor or some sort of modern part. It kind of shocks me that they used new old stock stuff because, and that's allegedly what's going on, why they can't make these infinitely. Probably also because of the agreement they have with Mercari. But they said that they were only able to find parts to make, this many. And it's like, okay, then your Boss Roland, like, you have connections. You could have those parts made. Just like MXR, Jim Dunlop, got ticked off because they couldn't compete with the germanium fuzz market that was taking off. So they actually got somebody to make them germanium transistors, just like the old NKT 275 specs. Okay, because
realistically, knowing what I do about electronics manufacturing, you could get limited runs of them made. You could get, like, you could say, okay, you know what? I want to order. So what they do is they go, okay, 1 2 week period or whatever a year, we're going to pump out these things, or we'll pay some people overtime because you're giving us enough money. We'll make these out of hours, and we'll make them for a year, and we'll make you X thousand of them a year. Because It's just not unrealistic to expect that from a company that's building electronic components. That's what my daughter does for a living,
If
or did
if
for
Mike
years.
Fuller can get a company to make the same pot that was used in wah pedals that was made in Italy in the 60s,
Right.
he does not have the capital of Boss Roland, MXR,
Right.
or anyone else in this industry that you
Yep.
would think about building their own parts to make something. That's why I'm like, this is a no-brainer. And
Right.
you're absolutely right, Jim. Like, you know that how this works is that basically it's a small run manufacturing thing, but you can find people that'll do it.
That's right. You just got to find a company that builds transistors of that type and say, I need to get these because I need them to fit this thing. And what they do is they create a recipe. It's literally a recipe, just like you make
Yeah, it's chemicals. I mean,
mashed potatoes. It's a recipe of chemicals, and they put them together and they pay people to get it done. And again, they'll meet your stuff. They will meet you for a price. Boss has proven that this pedal is a marketable pedal, that they could sell more, and they could sell them for top dollar. You know, here's the thing that I see. I understand why the MD200 or MD500 or the other ones are a little more money. You've got a one-trick pony right here.
yeah, it's convenience. It's not that the pedal costs anymore. It's just that this is going to answer a lot of problems for you, and so the market the market price goes up because it can sustain that.
Right. And I think, personally, that Boss dipped their toes in the water, not just in the way of, can we do this Tonebender thing, but can we market our pedals, our one button? That's that one of those famous one button pedals that everybody loves. Let's face it, we all have a Boss pedal we love.
Mm-hmm.
And they've proven that they can put out one that's, like you said, based on a classic circuit, and will command prices like a JHS, like a J Rocket.
It's beyond those prices. I mean, $350 is like Vemoram territory.
Right, yeah. They're going up against Strymon in the pricing market.
I mean, and that's funny that you bring that up because they've been going against Strymon for a while. I mean, the whole DD series is basically designed to fight Strymon. That they punch above their weight because Boss was getting threatened by the Strymon product line. The only product I think that Boss makes that is inferior to what Strymon is doing right now is probably the modulation. The MD500.
The MD. Yep.
I think the reverb
phenomenal.
Is one of the 3 or 4 best reverbs on the market, and I'm talking rack stuff. And that's pretty amazing. You could compare it to the Big Sky. You can compare it to the ones that just came out from UAD. You could compare it to whatever Lexicon rack processor you want to throw it up against, and it'll hold up. The delay, the DD500, it paved the way for those other ones. Analog drive through. If you want it, if you want trails, then you got to give up the analog drive through. No big deal there. I mean, the pedals are great. I've owned the DD500, and I can legitimately say that it was more delay than I needed.
Yeah,
it was impressive.
I can believe that.
It was impressive. I kind of wish I still had one, but I'm not going to spend the money to get another DD, and at least until I get into a switching rig where I need MIDI and all that. So anyway, Tonebender Scalping. So this is not unprecedented, right? So Boss is doing this, and this is weird because it's a big company, but people have been buying stuff and jacking the prices up for years artificially. It's a classic example is Klons. So there are Klon collectors. There are people that have dozens of Klons, and it sounds mind-boggling when you think the pedal that goes from between $4,000 and $6,000 now it has collectors, but these people were collecting it when it was cheap because they knew that there were variations, and they caught on early, and they went, someday these are going to be worth some money. And they saw maybe a couple of their famous players that were using them, and they're like, we're getting some of them. And they had them sitting on their shelves, and then the prices gradually started to go up because people were looking for them, and they were out of production. Now even the KTR is like $800, which is just mind-boggling to me because the KTR has been in production and out of production and back in production, and it's still going for $800. It just seems crazy. Kind of makes me wish I'd bought a KTR when they were $300. I mean, they weren't that expensive.
If I could have seen the future, I'd have bought a Klon.
Okay. So this is another segment. We're going to talk about Klons and the perception of the market. So Klons go for $6,000 because there's collectors. It is what it is. Next segment, Klons versus clones. So I have actually had the luxury of meeting two people in my playing travels that have either owned Klons, currently own a Klon, or multiple Klons. In fact, one of the people I knew had two of them, a gold and a silver one, a silver no horsey. So gold, silver, no horsey. And they had a very interesting opinion, and they were sitting on them. Their investments for the guy that had two of them. I ran into him at an open mic a long time ago, and we had a. I'd actually almost forgotten about it until I was looking at Klons the other day as a result of my Sweetwater excursion. But he had told me. He said, I have two Klons at home. I have a gold and silver no horsey. And he said, they are great pedals. I bought them new. And he said, I was tipped off I guess the silver one, he says, towards the end of the, production of the original Klon. He said, I bought that because I was told they were going to stop making them by Bill Finnegan. So he had one of the last ones. And according to him, he said, the Klons are great. He's like, but the problem is they're kind of magic fairy dust thing that are not reproducible. And he's like, so everybody put them in the hands of people like Brian Wampler and Josh Scott, who reverse engineered them all to hell, figured out what was wrong with the circuit, and made them better. And actually, the night I saw him, he didn't have a Klon on his board. He had a Tumnus, actually. And I think it was a Tumnus. I don't think it was like the JHS one or anything like that.
Or the Archer.
I believe it was a Tumnus. And he was telling me, he's like, I prefer this one. I think I've got this. And he had a couple other clones, including the Soul Food, right? He had a JHS modded Soul Food, apparently. And I actually wanted to reach out to him, see if I could get him on the show, but I don't have his contact info. So I'm talking to some people. So it would be an interesting conversation. But basically, the Klon is a Klon, right? But once you get into the clone thing, like, what is a Klon? And it's a derivative circuit, so it's the same thing. It's like same conversation you had about tube screamers. Is like, when does it stop being a tube screamer? When is a Klon a clone? And ultimately, I sort of think like the prices should sort of fit that idea. Like, once somebody comes out with a pedal that has, more control and can get those same sounds, which, by the way, that flanger thing was a perfect example. And I had a conversation with somebody who actually owns the same flanger, the same Japanese Boss flanger, and had a different opinion about it compared to the current flanger. And I held my ground because I'll be honest with you, I heard them both in the same room, played by the same person, plugged in the same chain, and we tweaked them. They weren't the same knob positions, but we could get them to sound identical. You could not have told them apart. There's no way in hell. No way in hell. I don't care if you're Chris Lord Algae. You're not going to be telling them apart because they were that damn close. And maybe like in a situation where you have the knobs, tweaked the same way. No, they're not going to sound the same because Boss made improvements in their mind going into the digital one. So my point is with the Klon, people definitely have this interpretation that it's about having like knob positions, the same thing. It's like, that's not it. Can it do the same sounds? And if it can, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily what the case for this stuff is, but if you can do that and beyond, then okay, this is where I ask you, why the hell would you want a Klon at $6,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is they're going for today? Because they change hourly. And that's another thing. How many Klons were made? Because they're just like trading like stock. I mean, I swear to God, if you watch, I'm willing to bet you've seen some guy has owned the same Klon twice and not realized it. I mean, because there ain't that many of them. These people act like there's like thousands and thousands and like they can collect hundreds of them. There's probably a couple hundred gold ones. I can't imagine the numbers are like stratospheric on this pedal. So, yes, demand, right? Obviously, there's a demand for this. Is the demand a player's demand? I don't know many people who are buying the Klon to play it these days. There are people that do. Philip Stacey uses a Klon. Jeff Beck, I think, was using a Klon. I'm not sure if he's using it now. He probably is. But for people in those kinds of circles, they can use whatever the hell they want. It's not, right. I mean, that's not even an issue for them. For people like you and I to buy a Klon and take it on stage, when was the last time you saw somebody locally with a Klon on stage?
Almost 20 years ago. No, 10 years ago.
Yeah, because if you took it out now, you'd be worried somebody's going to walk off with your $3,000 overdrive.
Yeah, it was 10 or more years ago. So I was in a band called Rockslide, and my friend, who has sold it, so I can name him, his name is Bob. Bob had a Klon on his board, and he had a switching system built by one of those really
Bob Bradshaw.
Bradshaw. He had a Bradshaw switching system.
Okay.
And so his board looked like, here comes the Star Trek Enterprise, a gauge type thing. It was really cool, really nice, really a lot of stuff, and a really high-end stuff. And what was funny is he had a Klon, and he had like these really expensive pedals that I couldn't even at that time I didn't really know pedals.
What was he running? What was he running amp-wise? Just out of curiosity.
In practice, he was using an Egnator.
Okay. Before the cheapo Egnators showed up. Yeah.
Yes. The early Egnators.
Yeah, back when they had a reputation for being decent.
Right.
Before the Rebel and all that crap.
Right. He had the old Egnator. And he had which was a head cabinet. But he also ran another head. And I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was, but it was one of those like a
Bogner or something like that.
Yeah, really, or Soldano.
Yeah.
One of the other high-end ones that he used.
And that makes sense, because those are Marshall-style circuits, and I typically see people favoring Klons in those kinds of applications, typically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is he also made the thing to me. He said to me, I'd just get a Tumnus Deluxe. He goes, and I've still got, at that time he still had his Klon. He goes, I'd just get a Tumnus. And then I saw the Anderton thing where they showed a Tumnus. I saw a lot of different things where they recommended Tumnus for the guitars that I had. And so I was like, well, you know what? Because I asked Bob first. I said, because like you, he knows the stuff. And
you want to ask somebody who actually has experience with it, not some idiot on a forum who's seen one.
That's right. Who has Les Pauls, who knows that he's running it into a Marshall circuit, and what does he recommend? And he's got the gold Klon. He's got an original gold Klon
one of the earlier
at that
ones.
time in the collection. So, and he got good money for it.
Oh,
he got enough to buy a car for his kid. I mean, that bought a car.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with which obviously had the horsey on it.
Yeah, because the golds, I think the golds all had the horsey.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't know Klons well enough. All I know is he told me which one to get, and I just like I respect your opinion, I respect his opinion, and I went with the Tumnus, and I don't feel like I was let down.
I don't have
the
an
Tumnus is
opinion, but I think it's interesting that people do who don't own them,
who never owned a Klon, exactly,
who are
and
also the
don't
ones driving the
own
prices up. I mean,
yeah, and then they buy it and they don't put it on their pedal board because that's
no, it goes into a vault, you know. Because you could never take that to a gig. I mean, what if somebody spilled beer on your Klon?
What if? Let me say this. Let me be the devil's advocate here. Now, most people, if they have a 6,000, like Bob did, Bob had a real rack unit, a real good gear, and his pedal board, like I said, he had that Bob Bradshaw.
It's like his pedal board was basically like a drawer, you know? Like,
right. It was literally like he brought that out. It was this wide and this big. That thing was huge.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking people who are listening.
Did he just have the controller? He just had a controller unit on the floor then, and he had like a rack with all his stuff in it.
He had all this stuff, and he had some of the pedals were on the floor, and some of the stuff was in the rack.
So anything that had to be controlled was on the floor, like where you need access to knobs, right? Okay.
And he still does that, by the way. He records, he does studio stuff and things. So, anyway, so he has all this stuff, so he was using it. But there's one key piece of equipment he had that would allow you to have all this expensive gear. You know what it was? We've talked about it before. Guess. One key piece of equipment. You got all this expensive stuff. You're running it on the power that comes from the bar. What have you got in between?
Power conditioner.
That's right. He had a really good power conditioner. Just saying.
You
everything
have to with those rack units. The old rack stuff, like you had to have pristine power and that's where.
Oh yeah.
So, if you don't, just as an aside, if you don't remember when the first digital amps hit the market, like the Line 6 stuff, people used to flip their shit about gotta have clean power, gotta have. That was because those people's experience with that equipment was based on prior rack experience, where you didn't build a rack without a power conditioner, a Furman high-end power conditioner, because if you did, you were gonna have problems.
Right.
And that's because these venues, like if you ever run a multimeter at a venue, which I have, years and years ago, when I used to play this little place called 602 North, we were joking around about their power being bad because my amp, a Line 6 at the time, was buzzing really bad. And we actually read the power from the wall, and I could see the voltage dip. And I was like, oh, I'll be damned. And then I was told to not plug things into the wall sockets that weren't plugs. But
wow.
I had my probes in there, which I told them. I said I didn't want to plug my amp into bad power, so I test the outlet. And they were like, well, you shouldn't have to do that. Our power's fine. It was like, you're gonna blow something up or short something. I was a 16-year-old kid or 17-year-old kid. Like, they were looking at me going, this kid's gonna hurt himself or burn down the place or something. But I knew what I was doing, so it's worth mentioning. But that's the thing that happened, and I have heard stories about amps sounding different in different venues because they're not getting the proper voltage and that kind of stuff. Quite a bit over the years. I don't know how much of it's true, but I can imagine some of the places I've played, it looks like beer was spilled in the outlet, kind of thing. They're probably not giving you good power. That's almost guaranteed at that point. But in terms of the Klon price and the Klon market and how it all got like out of whack and why we're talking about it on the show, even $6,000 for one pedal. Just keep it in mind, because how many guitars can you buy for $6,000? You could buy two Gibson Les Paul standards and really nice hard shell cases for them. You could buy things you could buy with a Klon. That's going to be the name of the segment. Things you could buy with a Klon.
A car for your kid.
You could buy a down payment on a small house. You could buy, a lifetime supply of coffee. Like, the idea that a guitar pedal that has been readily cloned and probably improved upon, that you as a player should be looking at other people using it and thinking, I'm going to buy one. Unless you're rich and you hit the lottery, it ain't worth it. It just isn't. You can't gig with it. Like, that's my whole thing. I could not comfortably put that on a stage. If I took that to an old Stumpy gig, it would get beer in it. Not on it, in it. Okay. I have this is why I have insurance. Somebody put a big tall boy right in front of my amp, my brand new Fillmore the other night, and I went, are you fucking kidding me? On a open jam stage, and I'm going, why would you think that's acceptable? This isn't your gear. This isn't your house. There really even shouldn't be fucking alcohol on this stage. Period.
No.
Period.
No.
And the host has got his drink on the stage too. And I'm thinking, oh, but his is up in the front, so his is like out of the way. But I'm sitting there thinking, that should just be a rule. Like, and for my listeners, our show listeners, please, if you're one of those guys that brings your drink on the stage, think about it. Don't bring your beer on the stage. No, you're asking for trouble. You're going to get in a fight with somebody when you spill your beer on their stuff. That's what's going to happen. You spill your beer on my stuff. You spill your beer on my stuff, I'm going to approach you and be like, you're going to give me cash right now for the repair. And I don't care if it's cosmetic. Like, because that's bullshit. That's because you're an inconsiderate piece of shit and you can't realize you shouldn't do that. Totally unacceptable.
It is.
Especially when I go to those kinds of things and I'm willing to lend people my gear to get the thing done, and like, and then you're gonna put a beer in front of it and like almost kick it over twice. Come on, dude.
I'm telling you, the things I've seen, the things I've seen and the stuff I put up with is just, it's almost like some people need to pull themselves into your world. They need to, even if you're just an open mic musician, which should mean nothing. Should mean nothing.
Yeah.
I have people who just want to be a part of that. They need to be in it. And it's like, I get it. It's not exclusive. It's cool. But be reasonable. If you're coming into my house, then
treat me with respect.
Yeah.
Treat my stuff with respect.
Yeah, it's like I said about those guys. The thing we were worried about with these guys that wanted to borrow our guitars, it wasn't that I thought that they were going to do something bad to them. These are big dudes. They could just walk right out the front door with my guitar around their neck. Mm-hmm. And they're young. They're big. I mean, these guys look like two football players from, local college, ODU, which is Old Dominion University. I'm not going to stop one of them from walking out with my guitar, and there it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
And in today's world, do you think that the cops are going to do anything? I don't know.
Maybe if they stumble upon it somewhere, but
yeah.
And here's an honest reality. So this is the way I would like to see that handled in the future, and I might actually make a suggestion to the host. It's just like, dude, put a little side table, from the bar. They've got plenty of them, right next to the stage, and put a sign on it that says "Band Drinks." And when you come up to the stage and you're going to play, if you want to keep your drink where you can see it so somebody's not slipping you a roofie, you can put it right there. Because that's really I think that's the reason it happens the way it does. Because people are like, I don't want to leave my beer at my table because my waitress is going to walk off with it, or because, so give them a place to put it. Like it's not rocket science. And that'll solve the whole problem for everybody. Nobody will be spilling each other's drinks all over each other's gear. If it gets spilled on the table, it gets spilled on the table. And it'll be a better situation for all involved. And I understand. And I'm not trying to piss on people who want to go to the open mic party, because it's a party. Like, we're all going to go have a good time. And actually, I want that atmosphere. I want people to have a good time when they go to those things. But I also want them to respect that other people want to have a good time when they go to those things too. And that may involve you not shitting all over my very expensive gear. That I wish I didn't have to bring that, but because I can't afford expensive and cheap. You know what I mean? Like, and I opted for the right stuff. Then it is what it is. And I say right
That's
stuff.
right.
I'm not trying to piss on anybody's parade, but for me, right stuff for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I think there's too many people that read too many things into sometimes what one says.
yeah,
you don't
but
need
but
to.
I thought that needed clarification. That I would have read into that. I would have said okay. So anyway, Jim, for your purposes, you had a gig report you wanted to give.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about my gig from hell. So I get called from a friend. Hey, it's a pickup gig. So it's like a pickup game of basketball. Literally, one musician calls a bunch of other people to get together to do a pickup thing. They don't want their band to do it their band doesn't want to do it for whatever reason. So it's a private party. It's in Virginia Beach. We're gonna go to this private party.
It's all songs you probably already know because everybody knows the songs. And
Matter of fact, we were told just 3 of us were singing lead and playing guitar. So 3 of us. Well, actually, in the beginning, it was just going to be the 2 of us. Then it became 3 of us. That's where. So I say yes. But then the bass player drops. So another bass player comes in. But with him, for some reason, comes a guitar player. Why is this a package? I don't know. So now I've got another guitar player, a bass player, and now we've got 4 people. 4 people on the stage.
No drummer.
5 people, including the drummer.
Yeah, now you got a drummer. Okay.
5 people, including the drummer. And the original drummer backs out. Get another one. That part of the drummer backs out. Get another one. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel like I don't want to do this. So I said to the guy that invited
Please tell me
I said,
this is a paying gig.
It did pay, but
because
believe me,
because if
once
it wasn't
you
a
hear
paying
everything,
gig, it's not worth this shit.
Once you hear everything, you'll know this is not paid enough. So it's at a quote unquote friend's house. Now this is not my friend. I mean it's a person I know. It's an acquaintance, and it's an all right person. I don't dislike or otherwise hold anything against this person. I'm just not willing to do a whole lot of work for this person. I'm willing to show up with my guitar.
Yeah, it's not trusted you're going to get the money that you're being promised and all that.
Well, no, that's trusted. I'm going to get the money, and that's going to be there, and I'm going to get that, and it's going to be a good time. But now, the person that backed out, the first guy that backed out, guess what he had? The PA. Where are we going to get a PA? Hey, Jim, your band has a PA. Well, I said to my friend, hey, why don't you get your band to run the PA? Well, I talked to them, and it doesn't sound like they really want to loan it to me for that day. And I'm like,
right.
Okay. I said, so
in other words, the whole band doesn't own it. You don't have rights to it, which is
now,
normal.
Right. Yep. So now I have to call the guy that owns our PA. And he says yes. I knew he would say yes. He's a really sweet guy. The guy I play with, who's, these guys are really nice guys, isn't it? So everybody asks me. It just
kills me. The cost of a PA today, even having to have this conversation with someone is like
ridiculous. It's half the cost of one of these guitars.
I mean, my next big purchase is probably going to actually be a PA.
I'm going to buy a full PA, and I'm going to say F it. So now I've got to get the PA, and I'm like, okay, but I have a car. I have an Audi, leather seats. Aren't you gonna
Uber exit over there?
So who's gonna bring a truck? Well, I don't have a truck. My friend has a Corvette. That's the only thing he owns.
Oh my God!
He doesn't drive anything else. So I'm like, geez. I said, can you borrow a truck maybe, or
rent one?
Okay. It gets worse. The story just keeps declining. The position just keeps declining, which goes to this next purchase I'm going to show you in a second. I had my son bring it out here a second ago. So I go, all right, well, I guess, and he goes, don't back out on me, Jim. And I'm like,
oh, Jesus Christ.
I said to him, listen, here's the thing I need you to understand. I don't want to throw his name out here. I said, here's the thing I need you to understand. I don't own the PA. I have to drive over there and get it.
Right.
We just added an hour to my day at both ends. And I'm not being paid extra. This just went from fun to a job.
Yeah.
And now it's a job. And I had laryngitis last week.
Oh, yeah, even better. Really is the gig from hell.
Barely talk. No, I got my voice back yesterday. But still, yesterday. But still, I mean, I actually got it back Friday evening.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, Friday evening. And I got through the gig. But the point is, I was going to drop out at any moment. I probably should have. So but you know what? I'm a friend first, and he's my friend. So regardless of what the end person is, he's my friend, and I knew he needed me.
Right.
And because he needed me, I did this. If it had been her, I'd have said,
been like, no, this ain't happening.
That ain't happening. I'm not going through this. You cannot pay me enough. So I get there. This is why I can't pay me enough. So I leave from my home. I had some things to do on Saturday. My Saturday started at 8 a.m. So I go do the stuff I have to do, including going to the bank because I got to put some money in the bank, which had to happen right when the bank opened so I could get in, get out. 9 a.m. Still took me too much time, but you know how banks are. They're always slow. So I go to the credit union. I do my thing. I had to go get propane, which meant standing in line to get my propane tank filled. So I go through some other stuff, get home, and then I put all my gear in my trunk. And I drive to my house, to the band house, and I get the sticks and the PA and the mixer. I slide in on top of my stuff. So I've got my guitars are in my front seat, my amp and my pedals and all my.
I've been there, man.
Every cord I own, because I don't know what I'm going to need, is in the trunk. I've got my amp stand, everything, mic stands, XLR cables. Every XLR cable I own, which is probably a dozen XLR cables, maybe 24 XLR cables. I've got so many XLR cables.
Yeah.
And from the last time I had to use them, the person who put them away for me just threw them in a bag. So it's like Christmas lights.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
When I take them out. So I'm spending. It's hot as F. Okay, I'm on the East Coast.
You're also telling me you're never going to loan those XLR cables to that individual ever again.
It was my own band.
Oh, wonderful.
So
I don't let people pick my shit up.
Touch my XLR cables.
Yeah.
Just leave them on the floor.
Picks my shit up anymore.
Leave them on the floor. I will roll them up.
I don't care who they are. I can't trust them.
But then I looked and I said, "Where's all the XLR cables?" Oh, I threw them in the band box. I said, "What?" So I had to go through the box and pull all my cords back out.
Great.
And I hope to F, I got all of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a different thing. So I untangle all this stuff, and the other guys are just setting their gear up. Oh, gotta set my gear up, get it just right.
Yeah, that's the sound guy, dude.
Don't worry about me.
You always have the worst job in the world if you're the sound guy, because nobody's gonna help you with your shit. They're all worried about their dainty little, and I've been that guy, but I'm like, hey, I ain't running the sound. I don't. I'm always nice to him because I'm like, I know you're the one that's working your ass off.
I'm picking the thing now. I'm 5'7". I'm picking the thing up, trying to get it on the stick, and a guy next to me, I'm like, can you grab that side and help me get it? And then the other guy to help me with the other one that went on the stick. Wouldn't want one person to help me twice. It's 90 something degrees, close to 100. Humidity level at 100. Because it's going to rain. And I look up and I go, it's going to rain. Well, before we even got started, actually, thunderstorm. All over the place. Go outside. These guys are plugging fans into the same outlets where we're going to run the gear.
Oh, my God. Why?
So now you're going to have the whole time. And, which, by the way, did happen, of course. And so, long story short, I get it set up, then it's going to rain again. I had to take everything down, bring it inside.
Because they have no tent.
I've set it up, I've picked it up, set it up, take it down, put it inside.
No tent.
And they're like, oh, we're going to go back outside. I'm like, yeah, no tent. Oh, no tent, and nothing over top of us. So
Yeah, no, that's
not only
unacceptable. I
that,
wouldn't play that gig. I don't care who wants me to.
you see how light my skin is? That's as dark as I get. Okay, that is dark skinned for me.
Yeah.
I don't get any darker than that. So I burn like
Right. Same as
just
me.
torch.
Like, it doesn't matter how much sunscreen you put on, you're going to burn.
Yep. So I've got 50, sunblock 50, which I had to go into my car to get because I always have to have it. That's important at the end of this story. I get everything done. I go, hey, I told Brian to let you know. Sorry, I'll let his name out. I told my friend to let you know I wanted plenty of water and diet soda. I don't care if it's Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi.
Doesn't matter.
Diet soda.
Yeah.
She goes, well, Brian's going to bring it. Brian's not here yet. And I'm like, you don't have any water? You don't have any bottled water? I mean, these are rich people at the beach. No, bottled water. I'm like, oh.
That's when I pack my shit up and leave.
I
honestly got there and I saw that there was no awning I would have just been like, fuck this.
Yeah, you asked us to come out to play for peanuts. And you don't have an awning and you don't have bottled water. And it is 1,000 effing degrees outside and looks like it's going to thunderstorm constantly. She goes, well, if you brought some tarps, you could always throw the tarps over the stuff when it starts to rain. I go, that doesn't stop rain in Virginia Beach. I said,
like,
that is ridiculous.
That's the moment where you go, do you have a permit?
Yeah, exactly. Do you know how easily it is to get electrocuted? And this is the thing that people who don't own music gear don't understand. Because they can't comprehend how much the shit costs.
Yeah, and that's basically why I'm like, fuck you. Like, honestly, like,
that's why this is the bonus content, people.
I'm having a conniption listening to this.
Oh, it gets worse. So we go inside. I got my stuff inside. Brian did show up with the water, by the way. He had a little bit of water. But one of the guys, 3 bottles of water. 3.
Yeah, that'll last you like 15 minutes.
That didn't get me through the first set.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Other people wanted water. I had 1. So the other guy went to the convenience store and bought a 24-pack of
because they wouldn't
Aquafina.
Provide water for a band that they were probably paying peanuts to.
Oh, no, it was paying peanuts. It was $50 a person. I'll just put that right out there.
Yeah, it's peanuts.
So not enough to call that worth your time and effort.
Not an outdoor gig with no sunshade. And
when you're driving a diesel, it's barely enough to cover gas and tolls. I mean, all right, so I get, I get my stuff up there and I get everything set up, take it down, put it in. And then I said, we cannot go back outside. It's going to keep raining all afternoon. We're going to have to set up inside. Well, one guy has to leave at 5:30. So he only plays for a good maybe hour of the whole thing and gets an equal amount. I get an equal amount, and my day didn't end until almost 11 p.m. What's that?
And you brought the PA. You should get the sound guy's wages.
That's exactly. I was like, I should have got 2 people's wages, one for me.
And your buddy
one
owes you a great big favor at some point in the future. So just remember that.
Oh yeah, that's going to come cashing in. I said, don't get me wrong. I love my friend, and I'm not going to trade him for the world. This really, this was really asking and asking and asking because I knew it's not him. It was her and her friends. These are rich people who live at the beach who know nothing about the poor.
They don't understand. Yeah, they don't have any idea about the rest of us and how we live.
I don't care. I don't care. My mother deals with that shit. My mother.
These are the kind of people that don't tip the valet.
Right. So my mother's. So I grew up. My mom was what they call a chambermaid at that time. They've come up with new names to call it, but let's just call it what it is. She was a house cleaner, and she would clean homes for the rich and famous all over upstate New York. Mm-hmm. One of her clients was Bon Jovi. I mean, so I knew how these people acted. and it's not totally. I don't totally blame them for being where they are, but you've still got to respect the person that takes care of you. And it would be the people with less money would tip her bigger than the people with more money.
Yeah.
They seemed to think that the pay was good enough. And now my mother worked for herself, so all the money was hers. But that's beside the point. So I knew that going into this was nothing but a here's somebody
it was just going to be
doing
a disaster
me a favor.
from moment A.
And it was a disaster. So we had to set up in her living room, which meant we had to reorganize her living room and then set up and play. The other guy left after 4 or 5 songs. So he leaves. Don't worry, he got a full amount of money.
Yeah.
And then the bass player said something about, oh, well, you guys, I as it is, this bass player is not somebody I'm a fan of. So he's a nice guy. He's a good bass player. Not really the best when it comes to communicating what he really wants to say, and not good at timing sarcasm. He goes, well, you guitar players moving all your little gear. I said,
That's my PA you're plugging into, asshole.
Amp. You have one effing amp and a bass with a cord. You don't even have a microphone. Yeah. Shut up. If I'd have known, I would have played bass. Told him to stay home. Just have me play bass. Then we could have been 4 people. Anyway,
this is
3
brilliant.
people. I mean,
we're pushing 2 hours here, but man, this is good content. Let's keep going.
All right. So the other guys have one piece of gear I didn't have, and I'm going to introduce it here at the end because I bought one today. But I made a smart move. So anyway, we get through the gig, and at the end of the night, they put a tip jar out, and believe it or not, we got another $160 in tips.
Sure.
And what did they do? I almost didn't tell it because they gave it to me, and I was like, I'm just going to keep all this. That's one side of me said, I'm going to keep all of it.
I would have.
But I didn't.
I would have. I'd been like, you know what? Next time you bring the PA, I'll give you the $160.
And we split it up, and they gave me an extra $10.
Oh, yeah,
I had to then break the PA back down, get it into my car, get it back to the... And instead of, it was supposed to be from 1 to 5, instead of being from 1 to 5, it wound up being from noon to 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, of course.
And I didn't get home until almost 11.
Of course.
And what did I have for dinner? Because I'm not in the mood to cook or anything. What you just said, Nacho Belgrande.
Yeah.
So
I just guessed.
Actually, no, I went to Sonic and I got a cheeseburger.
Okay. Basically nachos Belgrande. It came out the same way.
Crap. Yeah, believe me, it comes out the same way. It was crap. But here's the thing that they did have that I wish I'd had, but I was like, I mentioned it earlier. So they had fans. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wish I had a fan. A lot of times on these, especially in the summer around here, it doesn't matter if you're indoors, it can get hot.
I have a ball fan. It's under my desk. It blows directly on my legs. I call it the ball fan, but it's basically just because if I don't have any oxygen moving in this room, like it gets stagnant.
Well, this one, I turned it off during this because, believe it or not, I was getting chills. I don't know if you noticed me going like this, but I was getting chills. It's so...
Oh, mine's under the desk.
And I have one here. Oh, yeah, I have a little ball fan right here.
Yeah.
It's actually to my left.
I don't think you...
So I bought
anyway.
this today because what you shouldn't do is plug a fan into an outlet where you're going to have an amplifier. So here's what I bought today. And I'm going to tell you one more story. It's going to be short.
So you bought a fan.
But guess what it runs on?
Battery-powered fan.
It runs on both power and a battery.
Yep.
So battery-powered, and I have, remember what I bought? I bought a DeWalt lawnmower and DeWalt weed whacker.
The battery to go with it.
And DeWalt tools, so I have like 8 batteries that fit this stuff.
Yeah.
So I bought it tool only. Now here's my Home Depot story, and then we're done. You ready?
But this is too much gear to haul to a gig now. Like you got fans and
We're gonna size
moving on.
$100. All right. But here's the funny part. They have this on their website, $99.99 or $99 even. It was either $99.99 or $99. Doesn't matter. $100. All right. So I go to Home Depot, and it says available online, or pick it up at this Home Depot on North Military Highway. I drive to North Military Highway. It says they got one in stock. Sure enough, they got one in stock. Here it is.
Price is different.
I grab it. I walk it up to the thing, and she goes, $129.99. I said, well, you got it online for $99.
Yep.
You know what she told me?
Buy it online.
They cannot match their own online price.
No, you buy it online, in-store pickup.
That's right. So I said, do you mean to tell me? I said, you've got to be bullshitting me.
No,
she goes,
it's true.
So I went to customer service.
I knew this already.
All right, now here's where it gets funnier. Went to customer service. I said, I want to do this. She goes, sometimes they'll sell the display model online, and we're not allowed to sell the display models unless they sell it through online. I go, well, that makes sense, except do they have 5 display models in Chesapeake, in South Chesapeake, and 7 in Hampton? She goes, no. I said, then that means that they're store pickup for the actual inbox items. I said, so let's go over and I'll show you that not only do you not have a display item, you don't have a place to display this item. So let's walk over there. We walk over there. She goes, yep, that's right. And I go, so you mean to tell me, for me to buy this box, this item in the box, which is right here, by the way,
you have to buy it online and pick it up.
I have to buy it online, and then one of you has to walk all the way over here to get it off this shelf, to bring it up to these bins right behind you where you're standing, so that I can then grab it from you, but we're already standing here.
Yep.
And she kind of looks at me like, yeah. And I go, and there's nothing you can do to make this sale happen without me having to do this online. I will stand right here next to you, and I will plug it into my phone.
Yeah.
And
you
we
can
will
actually
do
have her
this.
put it in the bin before you actually buy it. Yeah.
And I said, and we will get this done. And she goes, do me a favor, just fill out the survey and tell them I did this for you. Okay. So that's what I did. And Jolene, that's her name, Jolene, at the North Military Highway Home Depot customer service department, did that for me.
There's a lot of
she
extra
put
content.
that pricing in. That was funny shit right there. That made my day, kind of. I mean, it was like, you know what? I've been having a shitty weekend. She made my day. She made my day by taking policy and saying that, because to me, and I'm sure to her, that policy says we want to close down stores. We want to
it's
minimize.
Probably not a policy so much as it is a software issue and minimizing loss. In big box, it's about theft and employees marking items down that they're selling to their buddies so they can go on and sell them online. That's a big problem with tools. And I have a feeling it's a theft reduction policy, but it's a shitty one. And quite frankly, they need to offer the stuff on the website the same price in the store. And if they can't do that, then they need to make adjustments, because there's no way that if their software is that bad, they need to hire people to rewrite their software, because that's a joke.
That's right.
It's unacceptable.
I can understand it if you don't want to. First of all, this is a Home Depot exclusive. I cannot buy this anywhere else. So this thing right here cannot be bought at Lowe's or Taylor or name your hardware store. It can't even be bought at Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Unless it's being resold.
Right. So you got to have a policy that covers a brand new in the box item for an exclusive. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, folks, I don't know what to tell you. My mind is exploding this weekend. I just want to thank God next weekend is 4th of July. But you guys will hear this after the 4th of July, so you'll get to laugh about it afterwards.
All right. That concludes our episode. I've been David.
I've been Jim.
And tonight we've been Practical Guitarists.